Well, welcome to tonight's 7 o'clock talk. And I have written into the description that we will be talking about a sucralose study, and we will be talking about a book by the name of Crave, written by a Dr. I always Como, PhD. And just to introduce who we are, for those of you that don't know, I'm Dr. Trevor Miller. This is my wife, Jessica. She's also a registered nurse, and we are the treating partners at Integrated Health of Indiana. And we're here to help you heal from the inside out. But right now, we're here to educate and give you a little more information on non-nutritive sweeteners, because they are not all they were cracked up to be originally. So I'll turn it over to you, hon.
Well, when we're talking about a sucralose, and it's supposed to be calorie free, but that doesn't mean it's harmless. So they've done brain imaging studies that found that it activates your brain's hunger center, actually more than sugar does. And so it drives cravings. It does not reduce them. And it causes all kinds of confusion and problem in the body. There's no nutrition in it. It disrupts your gut microbiome, and it actually impairs your glucose regulation. So over time, it actually fuels inflammation, metabolic dysfunction, and weight gain. So that kind of undermines the reason at which you're using it. So let's see what else. If you're wanting to optimize your metabolism, reduce cravings, and protect your long-term health, you can try to use other things. So if you're wanting a sweet drink, use fruit, honey, maple syrup, herbs, and you can use that in sparkling water if you really like that fizzy. I don't even know what you call that.
The bubbly mouthfeel.
Yeah, of soda. Let's see what else. I think that's about it.
Well, and from the studies that I read, there's a couple of things that are nuanced in this. Hey, if you are overweight or obese and you're trying to lose weight, the studies show that in those people, it actually will trigger an insulin response. And this is bad, because if you're already overweight and obese, you already most likely have some insulin dysregulation, and you don't need anything else tripping the trigger for insulin. And then once again, on all these non-nutritive sweeteners and all of that stuff, when you're looking at those things, you're trying to satisfy a craving, and this leads into the book. But you got to figure out why. Jessica always says, smokers, they smoke for a reason. And typically, what's that reason? And you got to dig down into the why of those things, right?
I think there's always a why.
And so you spend a lot of time, she spends a lot of time with patients, talking to them and trying to uncover the why, the trigger.
Well, and a lot of time we ask them, like, they need that cigarette, or they need the Diet Coke, or they whatever. And so we ask them, like, why do you need that? What is it that you enjoy about that? It actually isn't anything to do with the cigarette and or the Diet Coke or whatever. Usually they consider that their me time. Whether it's just sitting outside smoking a cigarette, or the idea that they are drinking that Coke, that's their time. So we try to transplant that into something different. So instead of grabbing the cigarette, go for a walk. Instead of grabbing the Diet Coke, sit with a friend at the picnic table. I mean, do something besides whatever it is whatever that vice is.
Well, and recently, people that follow us know that we like to go to the park passes. And just recently we started geocaching. Get with somebody and actually go do something.
You might want to explain to them what that is.
Well, geocaching, there's an app on the phones called geocaching. And basically what happens is people, like, we're getting ready, we found our 20. And so when you find 20 caches, you're allowed to hide a cache or cache, however you want to say it. And so for people, it is very important to have community. And we are so isolated anymore because we go to work, go to sleep, eat, wake up. There's a very regimented routine, and work has taken more and more and more of our free time.
It's taken most of our free time.
Yes. And so you've got to have that time with friends, and you've got to have that time by yourself. And with all of that being said, you don't want to fill it with vices. You don't want to fill it with smoking. You don't want to fill it with drinking. It's okay to have a drink. Actually, not really. But if you have to have it, one. And that's like one a week, tops. They're just really, if you really look at research studies, there's nothing redeeming about alcohol. There's even less redeeming about a soda. And I hate to break your bubble. I used to love Mountain Dew. I used to drink 2 liters of that stuff a day way back in the day. And Lord knows what kind of damage that has done to my body and to my insides. But regardless, we're talking about, sucralose.
Well, we got off track. We never told them what geocaching was. So so it's an app, and people around the whole world hide things at a longitude and a latitude, and they give you a hint or a clue. And a lot of times we go out and they can be as tiny as like DNA collection tubes. And they have these little tiny log sheets or something stuffed in there. And I think the biggest one we found was in a birdhouse. So it had all kinds of trinkets. So you always thank them for the find if you find it, which sometimes it's hard. There's things that we just didn't find.
Too.
Some of them are so tiny. They're like less than the size of a dime. And one we found that was a bee. But anyway, the idea is when you get out into nature,
mm-hmm.
and you're either by yourself moving or you're with friends or family moving, and usually it's us, and you can do it in the rain, you can do it in any time. And these have been hidden, and the person that hides them makes sure that they're good. And I think some of them we were looking, they were over 15 years old.
Oh yeah.
A lot of them were in memory of people. We found graveyards in an area like close to home that I've lived here my whole life and didn't know anything about. The little tiny graveyard that's in the middle of actually multiple big neighborhoods. And so it was super fun. So anywhere you go, you have an app, you can look at it, and there's rules about where you can place them so that it keeps people safe. But anyway, you can see all of these little caches that you are capable of finding. And so it's fun. It's intriguing. You find it, you put it back exactly how you found it. You go on the app, you tell them that thank you that you found it, and you put it back, and you can tell them if it's got a soggy log or whatever. So if they're big and you have trinkets in there, the rules are if you take something, you have to leave something and sign it and let them know that it's good. And so that's super fun, and we can't wait to do that again tomorrow.
And it triggers your brain, so it hits the dopamine center of the brain. So it does work on the same reward, but it's a good compulsion. It gets you out. It gets you active. And
you're not on the couch. You're not watching television. You're not playing on your phone. You're engaging with your environment and others.
Yep. And so that leads us to our second part of this, which is talking about the book Crave. And the actual title is Crave, The Hidden Biology of Addiction and Cancer. And Dr. Como actually kind of redefines addiction. And he does a very good job of talking about addiction, whether it's a sugar addiction, whether it's a porn addiction, whether it's a food addiction, whatever the addiction is, it changes the chemistry in the brain, and it also leaves a molecular trail. So it changes the terrain of the body. So you hear us talk about like the microbiome and the environment. and the environment inside the body. You want to make the body hospitable to the good bugs and to the health promoting bugs and all of that stuff. You want those things to be in good shape. But yet when you have these addictions and these cravings, oh God, yeah.
And let's not forget, this is the #1 addiction in America, along with video games. This is actually changing people's brains in children. This is a problem.
Yep. And he actually discusses screens in depth. I'm telling you, you really need to read the book. I'll pop the book up on the screen. So that's the book, and that's Dr. Raphael Como. And he does an absolutely fabulous job of bringing a lot of the things that we have known for a long time. Just because I've spent 15 years in the functional medicine space and looked at, what is bliss point? What is, why do they use fructose? And he starts to bring how they actually, he brings all of those things into one book and explains them to you. And he explains how that can start to trigger cancer. And so he actually does a great job of defining the addiction and cancer link. And that's at the core thesis of the book. And it is absolutely talking about the terrain. The other thing that he talks about in depth, I've got 10 points here I'm just going to hit real quick that I wrote down. The molecular traces of craving. So he dives into the science of how cravings leave measurable molecular traces in the body, reshaping the neuroplasticity of the brain, and it even changes gene expression. So much like when we are looking at, let's say we're looking at the concentration camp people, because they were starved so much, you can see the genetics of the starvation for 2 generations. So grandma has affected the genetics of the grandchild. Social drivers of addiction, how food industries, food and tech and tobacco exploit our addictive tendencies. The dopamine center of the brain is a reward center of the brain, and it has a lot to do with how you survive, because you get a reward for seeking food and you get a reward for seeking pleasure. And so that's where he talks about all of these industries. And let's talk about tech. Let's talk about a huge issue that we see with people, with guys, is erectile dysfunction because of porn, because they have so stimulated the brain that the dopamine center of the brain really just doesn't get excited at normal, usual things. And it takes a huge fast, a huge relief of getting away from that to actually start to reset the dopamine centers of the brain for that type of stuff. And it's a big problem. When we look at, he talks in depth about the alcohol and cancer risk. Here's the 2 drinks of alcohol a day. So what do most people consider moderation? 1 to 2 drinks a day. It increases early onset colon cancer by 39%, which each additional drink, so if you drink 3 drinks, that now goes up 2% to 41. So you are really rolling the dice if you drink 1 to 2 to 3 drinks a night. And we as a society don't think that that's a lot.
But you have to drink 1, 2, or 3. If you're drinking daily, you have a problem.
And it doesn't kill you quickly. What it does is robs you of your life later on down the line. And so if you want to start to talk about Dr. Atia's Sentinel Olympics, where you want to make it to 100 years old, you really got to consider the things that you do right now, especially bad habits, rob you of life later. The power of plasticity, basically, it talks about how the body changes. Your frontal cortex, the way you think, changes and shapes the way your body behaves. And so the perfect case in point is when you start to want something, say you want fast food, you're stressed out and you just want to go run through a McDonald's or something like that real quick. If you can play a game with yourself and say, oh, in 2 days, I'm going to be able to go eat a healthy meal of like seafood, something that is a treat, you can usually stave off those decisions. And plasticity, the way you can mold your body, you've got to figure out how to basically work with yourself, because those cravings are going to be there. Your microbiome will actually initiate cravings, and you have to know how to basically manipulate it so that you do the right thing and not the wrong thing. Practical steps for health. It talks about prioritizing, and here he is in lockstep with us because we came out with our stuff first. This book came out actually May 16th, and I was lucky enough to have Dr. Como reach out to me, and he sent me an early edition, and I read it, and we are in lockstep. He talks about the 5 pillars to health, although he doesn't call them the 5 pillars of health, but he talks about sleep, nutrition, movement, stress, and community. And so a lot of the things that he recommends, we recommend. So if you don't want to see a functional medicine doctor, this is a great book to have, because he talks about a lot of lifestyle stuff and gives you great practical application. Diet and addiction. Connect to your interest in the carnivore diet by exploring Como's take on dietary habits. Discuss how avoiding processed foods like sugar aligns with the book's recommendations. All the fad diets, and if you watch and follow us on YouTube, you see I'm in a discussion with a gentleman about the carnivore diet. We are not big proponents of the extremes like carnivore and vegan,
but they have their place.
They are tools. They are absolutely tools. And if you have a problem with insulin and insulin resistance, the carnivore diet with pastured, grass-fed proteins, you actually also have to eat organ meats. You have to have liver, you have to have heart, kidneys. Those things have nutrients that the actual muscle meats don't have. You also need to be eating good fats. And this puts you into a ketogenic state, and your body can run indefinitely in a ketogenic state. It's absolutely fine for your body to run in a ketogenic state. As far as I know, there are actually no side effects to being in a ketogenic state except for weight loss. But you also have to be healthy enough. If you're a diabetic and you switch to a hardcore carnivore diet, you're going to go through some epic, well, I shouldn't say you will. You are probably going to go through some epic hypoglycemic events, withdrawals, and stuff like that. You really need to kind of bring that in gradients. And this basically, it struck a chord with me because it talks about a lot of the things that we've talked about and that led me down this path of lifestyle and food and everything to help even our chiropractic patients. Our chiropractic patients that follow our lifestyle recommendations. Jessica's acoustic wave patients that actually follow her recommendations, they get so much better. It is literally amazing that you can relieve so much with just lifestyle. And people don't think it's true, or to the point of the book, the cravings are so bad, they've got to sit down with themselves and figure out why they have the cravings. Did they have problems with being abused? Were they neglected? What is it that's triggering these things? And then you got to come to terms with that. And so it resonates on so many different levels. And last, I was just talking about looking at why you crave the things you crave. Is your life going so fast right now that you want alcohol to bring you down because you can't turn your brain off? There are other ways to turn your brain off. A lot of times, the easy things are not the healthiest things. And so it's very important to start to understand yourself. Jessica and I, we've been married since 2018, but prior to that, we both spent a long time being single so we could figure out our own stuff. And we still both have stuff. Everybody has stuff, but it's learning the system and the process to vet your stuff so you don't get angry. You don't take it out on others, because that's just a sign of emotional insecurities. So with that being said, we're here to help you heal from the inside out. We do tons of work with hormones. We do tons of work with the microbiome. We do a lot of work with mitochondrial medicine. This is what we do to help you heal. So working with a book like this, working with Dr. Hyman's books, which I put this in the same level of book with Dr. Hyman's, working with these types of books lets you set the stage for a lot of healing. But then it's up to you to seek out more if you need it. But if you're in a good place, you're in a good place. If you want to optimize, we are a place to optimize your health, work on longevity and things like that. That's what we're here to do. Would you like to add anything to that? I pretty much monopolized the second half.
No, we talk a lot about the food cravings and things like that. And for some people, they are a lot. And so, you talked about, gamifying it or rewarding it. So you could go get a coffee every single morning, but why do you need it? If you need it to wake up, then you might need to dig a little deeper as to why you're not refreshed when you wake up. A lot of times people do it out of habit, and it's just routine for them. So just try to cut it out and just replace it with something different. Reward yourself, put the $7 or $8, $10, I think sometimes, for a good cup of coffee in a jar instead of actually purchasing it. And we have coffee together usually on Saturdays. Now, do I ever stop and get a coffee? Yes, but it's not usually because I can't wake up or I just need it. It's usually a social thing.
Yeah, you like to go to Graham's and talk to the people.
Yeah, and then I get it, and then I set it in my car, and I never even drink it. Oh,
she leaves it on the table at the clinic.
I like the idea of going for the coffee, but I never really drink it. And to me, that's just a waste. So a lot of times I'll just go in and buy like an unsweet tea because I'll drink that all day. But what I'm saying is instead of doing the habit or replace it with something different and then put it in a jar. And so you make it to Saturday morning, and we make it a little date, and it's more of a connection. We go get our coffee and then walk around with it or whatever.
Yeah, we go to the farmer's market.
If you make it to Saturday and then you reward yourself with your cup of coffee, but now you have a jar of
Money.
thrift money or whatever you want to do with it. And then if you mess up, then you don't get to go, you spend your money, you have to start over it. You just, whatever it is that you need to do, like whatever it is, for whatever it, whether it's a coffee or Doritos or whatever, there's usually a much healthier alternative to whatever it is that you need. And then you replace it with something better.
And I would say, to add to that, our addiction to work, and I would say this, in my experience, this is mostly older people, but there's more to life than sleeping, eating, and working, because that doesn't actually have purpose. And human beings are driven by purpose. Money is an evil thing, and the pursuit of money is a very evil thing. If money happens as a byproduct, because we're not wealthy by any means, but we do have a good life.
Yeah, we're absolutely rich, but not rich in things. We are rich in experiences. And yeah, like we live very frugally, and I can speak for me. I don't need a lot. I don't need fancy houses. I really don't need fancy cars. But what I do indulge in is the things that make me happy and bring me joy, which are my animals and my flower beds and the things, my projects. So
our weed garden.
We can't garden. I promise you. I can't. Well, I can grow flowers. I cannot grow food. So
we can grow mean weeds, man.
Yep. So those are the things that bring me joy. So are we complete? Am I completely blessed and rich? Yes, but not in material things or a big bank account, I should say.
Yeah, he who dies with the most toys wins is not true.
But I think that that's a journey in itself, from when you're young, and I think we're talking about things like abuse and things like that. When you perceive that you don't have something, you're always wanting it, but then you get it and then you need more. And then you realize there's a point in your life at which the things actually rob you of your joy instead of bring you joy, because then you have to sustain them. So I think that that's just a life path in a maturation over time. For some, and for some not. Some they're always chasing. But I think for myself, I have come to a crossroads in life where the things that bring me joy are no longer things that cost money.
I was just thinking about, some of the stuff that Jessica said. And when I'm seeing patients, and we see patients in North Vernon, Indiana, it's a very small community. Jennings County has a big, there are people that are doing fabulous and great. And then there are people who are just good people, but they're dirt poor. There's not a lot of in between in Jennings County. And the amount, if you've been abused, if you feel like you're isolated, and we've seen this lately, don't be ashamed. Statistically, 30% of women especially have been abused. I think it's 18% for men. But don't think that don't think that you're a bad person because of that, because you're not. And don't think that it's only you. You really need to reach out to your loved ones if they're supportive. If they're not supportive, you need to reach out to others that will be supportive, and don't feel isolated. We just dealt with this, or I just dealt with this. You didn't know about this one, but I just dealt with this with a patient who is in a bad situation at home and needs to leave home, but has a problem leaving home and can't go back to the parents because bad things happen at the parents.
Well, and
And
remember, it's not just women.
And
it's men
that
too.
person was just feeling lost and lonely. And so I took time to sit with them and say, hey, it's okay. You're not the first patient to experience us say this, and here's some resources. Reach out. And so by the end of it, they were smiling and they had a plan and they knew what they were going to do. And that a lot of times is enough to alleviate the anxiety and the pressure. So, I guess that's just one more thing just to add to the thing.
Oh, I can add another one because this tremendously affected me, which was actually, it still brings me to tears. Anyway, if somebody is coming to you and they need help, whatever it is, whether they're abused or they're sad, please reach your hand out. Don't put your hand down for them, because what you think is insignificant can be life or death for somebody.
So I guess we'll end on that very serious note.
It is very serious. So we started out with food cravings and sucralose, and now we've gotten really heavy. But anyway.
But it's all related.
It is.
It is all related, and don't think
be a good friend.
Yep.
Not even just be a good friend, be a good human. So we have people that walk in our door and we have no idea who they are, and we aren't even capable of honestly helping them, but we always try. And so if you are close to us and you need help, our door is always welcome to you. Please walk in. If we can't help, we will definitely find somebody that can help you. And
or we'll try.
Absolutely. And if you're hearing this, be a good human, be a good friend. It doesn't take anything to be kind to somebody.
Nope. Have a good night.